Los Angeles.
Now at pour with Hurricane Hilary on the move. Preparations are underway as Southern California is under its first ever tropical storm watch. Sand berms are being built along the coast as people shore up hillsides ahead of heavy rain and possible flooding. We're tracking the storm's path from Baja to the Southland. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Johnson.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ross Palumbo in today for Juan Fernandez. Hurricane Hilary will bring intense wind and rain to parts of Mexico before moving here.
That's right. Hilary will downgrade from a hurricane before its remnants hit the Southland, but the storm could still pack a very powerful punch. We have live team coverage ahead of the rare weather event from the Inland Empire all the way down to the coast. We have you covered as communities prepare.
We're going to start, though, with meteorologist Markina Brown tracking the storm's path in your next weather first forecast. Markina.
Good afternoon, guys. What a day. I want to start with this graphic because, as Amy mentioned off the top of the newscast, it is the first ever, and that is very true. This is the first time that a tropical storm watch has been issued for our area, going as far south as San Diego, if not further, and then up northward to LA County. With this storm, we are not only talking about the possibility for heavy rain, but also gusty winds as well. We will be watching out for stormy weather as well, even isolated storms and maybe even isolated tornadoes. We'll get into those details later, but here's what you can do. Knowing what you now know, that we are possibly looking at a tropical storm that could land in our area or in our vicinity, this is what you can do. We are looking for you to possibly try to do these things, or if you need to, or if you haven't done them already, things to keep in mind. Clear your storm drains, clean out your gutters, switch to Saturday. We are looking at the bigger part of the storm coming our way as we get into Sunday and Monday. So if you have things going on, maybe today, really try to put them off because we've got a big storm coming our way that will affect whether you should be outside or not. We'll talk more about this and your 7-day forecast, the all-important weekend, everything you need to know coming up in just a little bit. Back to you.
Meanwhile, LA County leaders are asking people to be aware and prepared, and they say first responders are already ready for the storm.
Our department search and rescue teams, swift water rescue personnel, and rescue aircraft are on alert and ready for immediate response. Our department's Aero Bureau started to fly over the waterways to assess the area and spot any encampments. They gave PA announcements of the impending storm.
LA County Sheriff Robert Luna says the immediate concern is dangers to the unhoused. He and other emergency service officials want people to be prepared, of course, for any emergency. The concern that the storm could cause power outages, downed trees, and flooding. The storm could also severely damage the shoreline. Crews have already created these berms along the beach here.
Yeah, coastal cities that have dealt with flooding and landslides in the past are preparing. KCAL Orange County reporter Michelle Geely shows us.
Rolls of plastic are put in place as a precaution on the unstable slope below San Clemente's beloved cultural center, Casa Romantica. 2 recent landslides have severely damaged parts of the historic property, and the concern is that this latest storm could cause further damage.
We're expecting a good amount of rainfall as the storm approaches us, in addition to some wind and storm surge and other things, but in particular the rainfall. If that rain soaks in, it will destabilize this slope. That's what we've seen before, is when it gets very wet, it starts to slough off and go down the hillside.
Here's an example of that happening in April. Tons of dirt and debris fell, which impacted the train tracks, forcing a closure. Officials hope to avoid that this time. Just to the south of Casa Romantica is another area of concern. It's called Cotton's Point. There is plastic going down on a hillside that recently slid. This is near the spot where the train tracks have been pounded by heavy surf.
Hilary, go away. Don't come back. Yeah, so we're just going to build up all of the sandbags and they're going to extend much higher.
Rosie Ritchie is listening to the forecast and using sandbags to fortify the front of her Seal Beach restaurant that sits on the beach adjacent to the San Gabriel River jetty. Just over a year ago, a storm sent water crashing over the rocks and into the beach house.
They're going to go to the fire station, and we're going to just start packing them everywhere at all of our openings, right below the patio, so that hopefully it will keep the water from coming in.
Seal Beach crews have built an emergency berm as further protection. A second mini berm is up next to the pier to keep large surf and storm surge from flooding beachfront homes. Several sandbag stations are in place throughout town. Lifeguards will focus on prevention and keeping inexperienced swimmers and surfers out of the ocean during the storm.
So we could see sets of 7 to 10 foot surf potentially, and that's going to fuel very strong currents, particularly rip currents. When people go in the water, they could get pulled out by rip currents, and that generates a lot of rescue and activity for us.
In Seal Beach, Michelle Geely, KCAL News.
Well, people living in the burn scar area of Duarte